Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going to talk about where we're at on this project out here on our new Hamshack. As you can see behind me, the walls are painted. We've made a lot of progress, so today is going to be an update day on where we're at. You're going to have to pardon me a little bit. I've been kind of dodging the sun coming through the window here. Early in the morning, trying to get the right lighting in here, and it's kind of tough. I don't have any blinds up yet, so that sun's beating right in through these windows pointed off towards the east. So bear with me if I'm having to move around a little bit. But as you can see behind me, this wall has been painted. All the walls are painted. We've made a lot of progress since the last video where it was just some sheetrock and some mud up. Now, I was hoping to have this operational by the CQ Worldwide contest, which is next weekend. I'm not sure I'm going to completely make it. I may have it partially operational by then, but we're not going to get whole hog into that contest anyway. But I would have liked to participated at least a little bit out of the new room here. So I'm going to give a quick walkthrough with you. I'm going to pull the camera off the tripod. We're going to walk through and look at where we're at with this project. As you can tell, the acoustics in here are still terrible. I have not had a chance to build any sound panels to dampen the sound down in here any at all. And originally I was going to put carpet in here, and I changed my mind last minute and decided to go with a vinyl plank flooring. It didn't help the acoustics at all. It still sounds like it's bouncing off of bare concrete, but you know, everything comes in its own time. But we've made a lot of progress, so let's walk around and I'll show you where we're at. So as you can see, the flooring's all in, the baseboards are all in, most of the trim is done, walls are all painted. This room's looking pretty close to a finished room. Lights are in. We went with the industrial style lights with LED Edison bulbs in them. Now this trim, this is not the original plan with the trim at all. Originally this was going to be a mission style trim, lots of wood. But when I went down to get some extra lumber, I had some on hand, but I needed some more because there's quite a bit of trim in here. And the local lumber stores just really did not have anything in stock. They were sold out. They've been sold out for quite a while, they said. What little they did have in stock was so warped, and it just was not good wood to work with, especially for trim. So I thought, what am I going to do here? So I saw these MDF boards. I've never used MDF on anything for a project like this anyway. And so I decided, well, let's give this a try. I brought it home, stuck a couple pieces down, looked at it, thought, you know, it actually doesn't look that bad. The white does not look that bad against those walls. So what am I going to do around the doors if I'm not doing, and windows, if I'm not doing a mission style trim? And I didn't want just plain Jane, you know, mitered corners. So I thought, well, let's try Craftsman style. It's completely out of my comfort zone. I've never used it before. Let's see what it looks like. So this is what, I had some pieces left over from the floor or the baseboards. So I made that up real quick and played around with it, changed it a couple times and come up with that and thought, you know, that doesn't look too bad. Kind of looks like an I-beam, kind of gaudy. I don't know if I like it or not. So I left it, come back and looked at it a couple hours later and thought, yeah, you know, it's okay. I sent a picture to my wife. She was working. And I thought, what do you think of this? And she just loved it right off the bat. And I'm like, okay, well, that's one positive. I'm just not so sure I like it. It's not my comfort zone. This is not my usual style. And then I said, okay, step back and take a look at it from more of a whole room perspective. How does it fit the room? And I'm no interior designer by any stretch of the imagination. I looked at it and thought, you know, it actually doesn't look that bad in here. And the more I looked at it, I thought, you know, I actually kind of like it. As much as I hate to admit it, I kind of like it. So that's what we're going with. As you can see, that one still needs painted around the top. That's not MDF around the windows. I decided there's no way I'm using MDF around these windows. I had some cedar and pine. That's pine up there. It's cedar anywhere where it's making contact with the window. It wasn't the best cedar in the world, but it was better than what was already down at the at the lumberyard. I already had some on hand that was in better shape than anything I could find that they had in stock. So I'm using this stuff. Normally, I consider it one of the 7 deadly sins to paint wood, but we're going to go ahead and do it this time. And I think it's going to turn out looking pretty good. So that's my goal for today, is to get that window finished, that painting done on that one, get this one done, get those Cat 6 jacks wired in, and I'll probably bring you guys along for that ride so I can move my desk in and get this room usable. Of course, here's the bathroom. The flooring's in. It still needs all the fixtures. That's not a super high priority for me right now. Every time I look at that outlet, I'm like, you need to throw the cover on it. It's sitting right there on the windowsill. You need to put that cover on. Then I don't do it. So, but there'll be a little vanity right down there. Obviously toilet. And everybody keeps asking me, why you got that pipe sticking up so high? Well, I know if I cut that off an inch or two above the floor and cap it, because if I put a shower in, that's where the shower is going to go. I know if I do that, I'm going to be tripping over it. I know for a fact that's what I'll do. If it's sticking up that high, I see it, I avoid it. So that's the reason it's like that. Now, the sheetrock in here, I didn't do quite as good a job on. This was the last room I did. I got in a hurry. I was tired of messing with the mud and the taping, so it's not perfect. There's some little flaws in there, but yeah, it's okay. Normally that would bug the heck out of me, but I was to the point I didn't care, and I knew it was going to be that way, so I just said, okay, I can deal with it, so I'm dealing with it. In here, there's a couple of flaws in this room. You can see that one right there. And what happened was I had a roll of tape, had about 400 feet left on it, and I thought, I'm going to use that roll up before I dig into these new rolls of tape. Well, that roll is about 8-10 years old, and I did not know that old tape could cause you problems. Anywhere where I had that old tape, and then I sprayed it with the PVA primer, well, not everywhere, but anywhere where I had problems, it was that old tape. As soon as that PVA primer got it on it and got it wet again, it popped up like that in a few spots. Now this wall, the reason I didn't fix that one is there's going to be shelving over that anyway, so it's not that big a deal. There's one spot over in this corner, same deal, did the same thing. I don't even know if that shows up. You actually have to be looking for it to spot it, but there's going to be a cabinet there, so it's not that big a deal. The one wall that really aggravated me was this back wall right across over there, right in the center of where I'm going to be using that as a backdrop for videos. That darn seam popped up like that. So the easy way to fix it was just to slit it open on one side of it, squeeze a bunch of really runny mud in there, flatten it back out. It dried, you couldn't even notice that that happened. Unfortunately, it was after, obviously, the texture was on, so I had to kind of refix the texture at the same time, but it wasn't that big a deal. So got that fixed. Any spot that was going to be super visible and annoying to me, I fixed. This storage room, it's it's a storage room. I don't think I'm going to put the flooring down in here. I just don't think it's worth the hassle to do it. Originally, I was going to use carpet to quiet that room down in there because, boy, the acoustics are terrible in there right now. But I went with this vinyl plank flooring instead. I'm not 100% sure what my reasoning was, but that's what I went with. One, I think, is probably easier to do a lot of different things with this kind of flooring because I can throw down some area rugs and quiet that room down some, and I'm going to build some sound panels for that room. But this room, being that it's going to be storage, there's going to be shelves over here, and back there on that wall, that's where the inverter setup's going to be. Batteries will be back down underneath the shelf there. I think I'm just going to leave this cement. But for right now, this has been my workroom. I'm working, doing the rest of the stuff. Just left a lot of my tools and stuff in here, and it's been working really well. We did get running water in here a couple weeks back. That's a good sign. which was a huge deal for me. The reason it wasn't done sooner is it just really didn't fit in the timelines of what I was trying to do. And so I finally got the material together, but it was so close to the twins' birthday in mid-September, I didn't want to tear the whole yard up and have it a mess because we had everybody over for their birthday. So I decided, well, I'll wait till right after their birthday and do it. So the day after their birthday party, dug the trench, got the water ran in, and then while I had it, the yard tore up, I went ahead and dug the trench over to the conduit that went from what we call the antenna field, which goes out to the smaller tower that's out there. I lost my train of thought there for a second. The smaller tower is out there, has 3-inch conduit running out there. I just cut into that, left the old conduit in place that went to the old shack, and just rerouted, put a 45 in and routed it over here to the new shack, to the entry box, and had that all done. And I noticed this morning that where I was worried that I was so late in the year that I wouldn't get any grass growing before winter, and that would cause there just to be a muddy mess out there all winter. But I was pretty happy to see this morning we do have some grass popping up where I tore the yard all up. So it's looking pretty good out there. And we got running water in here. And so pretty happy with all of this progress. Again, originally here, this was going to be a barn door, obviously wood. But now that we went with the white trim, I'm not so sure that's going to work out. We may still do a barn door style there, but it will probably wind up being white. And I have not bought the door for the bathroom yet. It hasn't been anywhere on my priority list to get that done, but kind of wish I had it in right now. It would have made putting the trim on a little bit easier, and I could have wrapped it all up. But anyway, that's the kind of the progress on this room. I like the lights. I like the way it all worked out. The one thing I did right at the last minute, you'll see right up there in the ceiling, there's a outlet right there. And I did that the day that I blew the insulation in. I threw that outlet in. The reason, I've had 2 people ask me this so far, why is there an outlet up there? You've already got lights. You've got 2 lights in the ceiling. Why'd you put an outlet up there? Well, that outlet's hot all the time. And the reason is I saw, and I'm trying to remember which YouTube person I saw doing this. They're building their new studio in their house, and this is going to be my ham room and kind of a studio at the same time. They're mounting some permanent or semi-permanent lights. So, this light stand, I've got just one out here right now. Normally I have like 3 of these things. And 2 of them are much larger than this, these big obnoxious light boxes that are on them. And this guy's idea was put them up off the ceiling so you don't have to fiddle around with these light stands and move them all the time. They're just there. And I thought, that's an outstanding idea, but if I did that, then I got to run cords from the nearest outlet up the wall, and I just don't like that idea. And I thought, hey, I have not blown the insulation in yet. Why not put an outlet right there? That way, if I want to put lights in like that, it's already there. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but at least now I have the option without a bunch of fiddling around with extension cords up the walls. And so it's there if I need it. That's the reason that outlet's there. So that's kind of where we're at with this building. Now, the one thing you probably noticed I didn't mention was on some of the previous videos, I said we're going to put a mini split in here. If you noticed I didn't mention it, that's because it's not in yet. The reason it's not in is it keeps getting pushed back a little further on the list. And the reason it does is the price of building materials have just went completely nuts. I'm glad I bought a majority of the building materials when I did for this. It's actually slowed our process down on getting this finished. I was hoping to have this all wrapped up by now, and it just hasn't happened. I was hoping to have this wrapped up so I could buy a new antenna switch system, because part of the process of putting this thing together is, the coax and stuff, it's not that big a deal to run it. It's all the antenna switches and rotors. It seems to eat up a lot of time. But the way I currently have this set up is there's 3 different remote antenna switches. I want to get rid of that setup and go down to just one 8x2 switch out here in the entry panel. I was hoping to have the rest of the building finished by now and could have dumped a little money into buying that updated switch. Just didn't work out because the price of materials just kept going up and up. The 7/16 OSB that I use on these outside walls, I think I paid $10.50 per sheet when I bought it then. I went to buy a couple other sheets for another project I'm working on, and the lady, I said, how much is your 7/16 OSB? Because I was kind of in a toss-up between it and some ACX plywood, or not some, CDX plywood. And she says, it's $25.90 a sheet. I said, no, I'm not talking about like 3/4 inch decking, just 7/16 OSB. She says, yeah, that is 7/16 OSB. It's like, are you kidding me? She's like, nope, that's the price right now. And I shopped around. I mean, I could drive a couple hours and get it a few bucks cheaper per sheet, but it's still pretty much anywhere I looked, well over $20 a sheet for 7/16 OSB. I went and bought some 2x6s yesterday that I'm going to rip down for some shelving stuff. I think the 10-foot 2x6s for these walls, I want to say I paid like $5.50 to $6 a stick for it. This stuff cost me $9.80 per stick for 10 foot. It blew my mind, the cost of where lumber and building materials in general are at right now. It's made this process last a little longer, and I'm to the point I want to be done with the project. I like building for a while, but we're to that point. I kind of want to wrap this up. It's getting cold. Like last night, it was 30 degrees. And so I just want to be inside. I want my shack put back together. My shack's been in complete disarray for the last 3 months because I had to tear up some of the conduit that went from my main tower over to the house. So it kind of put my shack out of commission, the station out of commission. So I've been off the air for about 3 months, and it's getting that time of year. I want to be back on the air. One of the probably the biggest contest of the years is next weekend. I want to participate a little bit in that. I'm hoping to get that done. I may set up the camera later today after I get this trim finished up on the process of moving the desk and stuff in here. It's a pretty big desk, and there's a couple changes I'm going to make to it while I have it disassembled. So we'll probably bring you along for that ride too. Anyway, kind of wraps things up. Hey, if you like the video, go ahead and hit that like button for us. It helps us out. Subscribe. Subscribers always help. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Thought I'd give you a little bit of bonus footage. So here's the entry box. And I just opened this a second ago. And I've been missing this hammer for the last several days. I could not find it. It was sitting in there the whole time. So there's where the coax will feed into the building. In the open space around it, I'm going to use wool insulation. The reason I like the wool insulation is it doesn't itch, and it's kind of smelly. It smells like sheep. If you've ever been around sheep, it smells like sheep. But I'm going to stuff that with wool insulation to keep airflow. This thing itself will knock the air down quite a bit, but there'll be 2 grounding plates up there. And I'm going to film all this and give you guys a good ride along on how this is going to work. I did pour a little stoop out here. I looked at this and I thought, I'm going to be tracking mud in and out of this brand new room all winter if I don't do something. So last minute, went down and bought about 14 bags of concrete, got this stoop poured. My oldest daughter, she helped me do it, and with some help, it wasn't too bad. I went ahead and ran the ground wire underneath that, which will tie back into those that entry panel, but it comes over here and it will tie into the tower ground system. I have not done that yet. That'll be part of an upcoming video. But while I had these trenches open, I did put some ground rods in out here buried. There's 3 of them out here right now. I bought the whole supply in our little town. Believe it or not, out of all this, normally 3 or 4 stores carry ground rods. They had 3 ground rods between them. So got the 3 ground rods in. I'm going to add some more later, but it is a good start. I'm not worried about too much lightning this winter. And here's where I dug the whole yard up. And the grass is starting to pop up through that hay, which I'm pretty happy with to see that. And I did fix a spot over here where we had a water leak that I'd fixed about, I don't know, 5 years ago. The guy who put the pipe in had drawn a little map and said there was a possible leak there, and I fixed that about 5 years ago. And I think the earthquake we had this spring broke that back apart. And when we brought the cement truck back here, I noticed that that spot was pretty wet. I was actually worried about him sinking in and getting stuck there or tipping over. But we just avoided that spot. So while I had it all dug up, I fixed that at the same time. And it turned out pretty darn good. I'm really happy to see that grass popping up through that hay. With these temperatures dropping down into the 30s and only getting up around 50 during the day, I didn't know whether this grass was going to have time to take off, but I'm pretty happy to see it is. Where we dug the trench for the conduit over here, it was, it was warm when we did that, and within 2 weeks you really couldn't tell I dug through here at all. One of the first times I've ever had that happen. Usually when that trench come right through here, you can hardly tell where I touched that ground. Usually every time I do it, it just winds up, for the next 2 years, I'm putting dirt back in and messing with it, trying to make it look good again. That one turned out really well. So I'm hoping this does the same. I did the same process over here. So hopefully this all winds up looking good. Well, again, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.